I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV and Channel 99, and also showing down in Down East Maine. Our guest today is Nat Lowell, a familiar face to many of us, and a member of the planning board. Welcome, Nat. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with the fact that there seemed to be a bit of a disconnect between the planning board and the voters at town meeting.
Yep.
To what do you attribute that?
Well, first of all, social media, number one, is gone past, I would say, staff's level, public hearings that are announced in the paper that we have throughout the process for the warrant.
Right.
People don't go to those meetings. Nobody goes to them. Even if they read the paper and knew exactly when the meeting was and had it stapled to their magneted to their refrigerator, they're not going to those meetings. So we've sort of got behind in this sort of Twitter, Facebook, the old yak on is now all this other stuff. And it's very easy to sway a group of people with back and forth conversation like that when no one's there to respond that can kind of, I don't want to say state the facts, but kind of bring a little reason into the conversation. I think the second thing is the zoning articles. First of all, we've had very good success in the last, since Andrew became director, and we got a little bit, since the area plans started to get done through the Planning Commission, we've been pretty successful with zoning changes. But most of them, the ones that don't get called, are usually in up zone, meaning going from, at least my definition of up zone, I've been told that it's the opposite, but I call it up zoning. Up zoning means, to me, less density, less uses. So we've taken a lot of
I would agree with you.
Yeah, but according to what I'm told, that's not true. But regardless of that, so we've got rid of a lot of RC2, which is what I call build anything, anywhere, anytime you want, zoning district. And now we're looking at the large, really big lots that are owned by middle Nantucket, middle class, working class, that have owned land since, I would say, the early 80s to the almost, around 2000, 2005 area where they've got in. They've got in under the latest increase of value. And basically, we've tried to downzone these lots to 1 acre from 2 acre, which is still not that dense. It's a big lot. And you really can't do that much on a 1 acre lot or a 2 acre lot, for that matter, let alone a 3 acre, which we'll get to the 3 acre in a second. And I think that wasn't enough homework on our part because we don't have the ability to just pay someone to be sort of like a public relations person. I mean, other than the letter that was in the Nantucket Chronicle by Rima Sherry, which I thought was really good, and it was a lot of satire, but it was very truthful. It was funny and truthful. We need somebody like her to do something to help us because we just can't do that. I mean, the staff is busy. They're working. Like, this isn't like a job to be in the public relations business. However, the voters, that's where the rubber meets the road. So if we can't do a better job of educating this next voting block in the 30s and 40s, it's going to be difficult for us to explain land use in Nantucket. So we're working on it. There was just a meeting yesterday, Monday, down at the Yacht Club.
I was there, actually.
You were at that meeting. I couldn't go to that meeting. I had a prior commitment at 4 o'clock, and I just couldn't do it. But this is what's going to start to happen. A lot of people are very upset about Article 53, the Paston
plan out on South Road.
That kind of took the oxygen out of the room with the other articles, in my opinion. Because everybody's mindset was, we don't want anything to change, even if we don't know that the change might be better. Change was bad regardless of what it was, okay? Except the tertiary dwelling, which is, we'll get to that as well. So now that most of those people know now that the Paston article was actually, they were doing them a favor. I mean, to stand up and say that would have been difficult, but that was true. So we have to do a better job in having these sort of, I think we need to have not just public hearings, we need to have meetings that are discussion, round table type stuff, where you can have back and forth, people can understand what these different zoning
And
districts
where
mean.
a decision isn't dependent on the outcome of the meeting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we need, I did a little homework after the town meeting. I went and talked to Jack Gardner at length and found out how zoning happened, who was doing it, why did they zone the west side of Myacomet Pond, because that's how I kind of guide it, all RC2, except for one area. Why did this get RC2? Well, because everybody that was involved wanted it to be the way it was before zoning. So they came up with a zoning district that was kind of like not even zoning. You can basically do anything you want with RC2, like anything, okay? It's pretty much everything under the sun is by right. Then on the other side of Myacomet, meaning South Shore Road, which was called Sewerbed Road then, and out by the airport, there were no houses at all, except maybe 2 in South Shore and none at the airport in 1972. So nobody wanted to, it was an undesirable area, no one wanted to live there. Real estate agents were discouraging people from even buying it in the early 80s. Yet, so they just made it a huge zoning district because nobody wanted to live there. So one of the things I wanted to say today on this show was, if zoning was put in 82 instead of 72, let's just say, I guarantee you that South Shore Road and the airport would have been a much denser down zone district. It may have even been lower than Lug 1 because it would have already been sort of seen as a new sort of place to be, building year-round homes.
To build out. Yeah.
Right. So it's an education. The general public of Nantucket has got to learn what's under their feet. They have to learn about the open space, the taxed land is under 40%. This is a scary number. Under 40% of the land of Nantucket is taxed. We're doing an awful lot with less than 40%. We're pretty lucky with our tax rate and how things get paid here. And so we've already I kind of call it the honey-do list. We've already checked off the open space, in my opinion. I'm not saying we don't need more. I'm saying we don't need to be as concerned about it as we were because we already did it. That job is done. And it should have been done first. Now we have to look at what's left. And that's what we're doing. We're essentially starting to look at the dirt that's left.
What about the mindset of home ownership versus rental? Is that an
I think
issue?
you're seeing that now with this apartment discussion. Everybody can't own a house on Nantucket, and it's never going to happen, even if it was 30 years ago.
Right.
Market. It still isn't going to happen here. Everything costs more here, regardless, and so you're not going to see that. But you're going to the rental issue with this apartment discussion is a lot of progress has been made on allowing apartments. The problem is somebody has to run the apartment system. I mean, it isn't going to just be. It's going to be somebody is going to own these buildings. I mean, it's not going to be the town. The town may own the land with a lease in some cases, but they're not going to own the building. I mean, the town can't manage that.
Right.
So that's something that we've never done. I mean, there hasn't really. I mean, other than quadplexes and things like that. I'm talking about real apartments. This is what you're talking about.
Right.
We've never done it before in Nantucket, so there's going to be a new thing.
Yeah, we've sort of backed into it in a couple of places with
the hospital one up by the cemetery.
But Academy Hill.
Academy Hill, yeah, that's a good one.
And our Landmark House.
Landmark House, yeah. And you never know, the current Island home could end up being that someday. You don't know.
Right.
So that's a good point. So we sort of need to kind of take this one slow, but there are some parcels of land on the island that are being the Tacoma Way area the town owns, and also there's a chunk of land on Pleasant Street that's privately owned that's sort of sitting there. It's been there for years. It needs to be, hopefully the right thing happens. I think you're gonna see retail down below and more apartments above type of stuff happen.
But that's not going to solve it.
No, but it does provide housing. I mean, solving is a word that may never happen. It's never going.
Right, let me rephrase it and say go along. It's not going to go a long way.
That's right, but it's a part of it. There's 6 or 7 pieces of housing solutions. I mean, it's not going to just be fixed. It's just like saying I need to get
But
on
isn't it a danger, though, that if you say there are 5 or 6 pieces to this and they've all got to come together before we can do anything, that you're
No.
not going to get anything
No,
done?
I think we have to understand that everybody isn't going to live here. I mean, people have been moving off island before we knew that that was, or thought that was a problem. I mean, families move away, just like they move here. So there's a constant movement.
Back and forth, yes.
What I feel, and this is something that's important, and kind of glad you brought this up. We knew this was going to be part of our discussion. This idea that people are getting rich if they own land. If you own a 2-acre lot and suddenly it can become 2 1-acre lots, you're suddenly, the town is letting you get rich. The voters. That's ridiculous, because most of those people can't do anything with that land. If they have a family, this allows them to make different decisions, to keep it, to maybe sell some, maybe sell off a secondary lot, which is something we need to talk about, the secondary covenant lot, which a lot of them are coming through planning now. And it allows them to get a little bit of equity to invest in their current property. There's a lot of different things that provides. It isn't just getting rich. You're not really actually getting rich. You're just able to
Cash out.
cash out and stay in at the same
Right,
time.
right.